Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie, and today we are back with another installment of my brand recap series where I review all of Mooncat's releases from 2024. And as you probably know, to make things a little bit more interesting, I am also going to be ranking the collections just because. This one's definitely going to be a little bit interesting because Mooncat only had 6 releases last year, which is so wild compared to the year before where they almost had a new release like every single month. I know a lot of us have definitely been feeling really overwhelmed with the amount of releases we see, especially every single month. So it was nice to see Mooncat actually slow down. So I will talk a little bit more about everything at the end. For now, let me just show you my tier list. Okay, so here is a look at my tier list. It usually goes from S through F, where F is like a failing grade, but because we don't really see that a lot in nail polish collections, my personal lowest is gonna be a D. And if you watched my other videos in this series so far, you know that I renamed the tiers as well, just to make things a little bit more fun. So in the S tier, I renamed it to Flawless, no notes, because it's basically perfection. The A tier is called The Vibes Are Immaculate because they are just so good. It's a solid collection. There's just something holding it back from being perfect in my opinion. B tier, we have These Are Nice with that specific smiley emoji because it's just so neutral, where maybe a lot of other people were really excited for this release, but I personally wasn't, but I can't really say it was like bad by any means either. Next we have Smile and Nod, where it's just, you know, not my favorite collection. I don't have a lot of nice things to say about the release. And lastly, we have Boring Yawning, which is the Abby Lee Miller meme, which I know might sound like aggressive if you're not familiar with the meme, but it's just a funny way to just say like I was not interested in this release. So like I already mentioned, Mooncat actually didn't have a lot of releases in 2024, and we actually started the year by saying goodbye to the next round of Dearly Departed, which is basically Mooncat's way of retiring polishes. In January, they actually retired 20 polishes. So I should have the collage on the screen here just to show them all at once. And it was sad to see some of these go because there are definitely a lot of my favorites that I've shared on my channel, whether they were like my favorite color series or in my favorite finishes. It does seem like there is an even mix of finishes because we see a lot of magnetics and hollows, shimmers and flakies and glitters. So at least that's kind of reassuring that there's like not one or two particular finishes that just like don't do well, but it still sucks to see a lot of these go because like I said, they were a lot of my favorite shades. And since I am recording this in January, I am like anxiously awaiting the next round of Dearly Departed shades. I have no idea what could be on the chopping block for this year. I haven't even seen a lot of like speculation for it. I definitely don't think there are going to be any 2024 releases that make it into the Dearly Departed just because there were so few of them, but yeah, I can't wait to see. I hope it's not as many as last year because it just seems like so much, but we will just have to wait and see. So anyway, getting into the actual releases, the first release was in February with the Seasons of Persephone collection. This was an 8-piece collection that had a mix of finishes and shades, all inspired and honoring Persephone as the goddess of spring and the underworld. So it just had this really beautiful color palette. I already talked about this collection in my nail polish awards video because I just thought it nailed the theme so perfectly. You're gonna hear me say this a lot, but I really love Mooncat's like creative vision and how well they capture that with their polishes. So I feel like this one especially was such a beautiful, like well curated lineup. So no surprise, I am gonna put this in the S tier because I think it is flawless. So then we didn't get a release in March. The next release was in April with the Songs of Sirens collection. This was another 8-piece collection, which was kind of on the larger side because Mooncat, like at least, you know, the few years before, usually would release like 5-piece collections. sometimes 6. There were occasional like 10-piece releases, but they were very like rare. But this year there definitely was a focus on like larger collections, which I guess makes sense since they like space them out. So I did appreciate that. But anyway, the Songs of Sirens release obviously has this like dark, mysterious, siren-inspired lineup. We have a lot of blues and purples, a lot of flakies, just so like mystical and enchanting. And I thought these were nice. I mean, I do love like Mooncat's approach to this sort of theme because we obviously see a lot of like mermaids or, you know, under the sea themes, but having this like darker siren sort of twist is very Mooncat, which I appreciate. And I do think the majority of the polishes were really beautiful, but I didn't end up like reaching for a lot of them, and there were a few of them that I'm just like, I actually don't really care for these that much. You know, the biggest one was Quicksand's Embrace, which was like the nude kind of jelly that had the hollow magnetic stripe. And it is just so incredibly subtle that I was like, honestly, kind of disappointed in that shade. I feel like that finish in general is just such a finicky one because it just doesn't last. So while the hollow might look strong initially, apparently it's just one of those finishes that will sort of like deteriorate over time, which sucks to see, especially when it comes to like Mooncat magnetics because they're already like on the pricier side. And I even felt that way about like their thermals. I didn't even talk about the first thermal in Seasons of Persephone, but this year Mooncat introduced a new finish, which are thermals. And I have already talked about how I just don't care for them because again, they just have a shorter shelf life. I obviously want to give them the benefit of the doubt and think that they're gonna like, you know, last a while. There are some brands that have thermals that have died within like 6 months or something. And I imagine Mooncats will be like a better quality than that, but unfortunately, because they were only just released last year, it's one of those, you know, we have to wait and see. So I'm kind of like on the fence about them. Admittedly, the colors I do think are beautiful, but there is the one thermal in this set called Treachery in the Blue that has some controversy maybe, where some of the swatches, or at least Michelle's swatch in particular, looks a lot more vibrant, at least with the pink base, because a lot of people have posted on Reddit about their swatches of Treachery in the Blue just not looking the way it does online. And I remember even going back and like testing my bottle and thinking, oh yeah, I feel like it's almost looking a little bit muddier than when I first got it in. So that's not a good sign. And it's such a shame because, you know, the color is super unique and really beautiful. I feel like a lot of people overall were let down by that one, but yeah, as a collection, I think I still would put them in These Are Nice. My favorite from the lineup was Maelstrom, which I had already shared in my top 24 polishes from 2024. That's really like the only shade that's kind of pulling it out of the smile and nod tier, honestly, because I feel like generally a lot of people like that collection more than I did, which, you know, is fine, right? But I don't know, there was something about that lineup that just didn't speak to me as much as like other Mooncat releases, even though I do think like they had a cool theme and they like did a great job curating the polishes. There was just something that I was like, you know, I just don't love it. Then in May, we only got a new individual polish release. It wasn't a collection. It was just the one shade called Mercury in Retrograde, which launched, I believe, with their lunar sale. Even though it wasn't a collection, I figured I could still talk about it because there's just so like few releases from the year. But unfortunately, this one wasn't really a favorite either. I do think it's like kind of pretty. It's like something that I'm surprised I don't like more, because I feel like the base sort of has this smoky cornflower lavender color. There's this pink shimmer and then a whitish silver magnetic pigment as well. So between the base color and the shimmer alone, I feel like that's, you know, sort of within the family of the colors that I like. It's just a little dustier. I don't know, it just didn't stand out to me so much. And even the magnetic, I feel like was on the softer side at least, you know, what I'm used to or what I prefer, especially for Mooncat. So honestly, I think I am gonna put this one in the smile and nod tier, just because there are so many other like magnetics that I love more. Then in June, we got Mooncat's first collab of the year with the Powerpuff Girls collection. This one was a 6-piece collection that had these jelly bases with these iridescent flakies. Some of them had glitter, so there was some variety, but more or less the same kind of finish, especially compared to how different the previous 2 releases were. So this one definitely was super cute, like A+ for the packaging alone. I mean, even the polishes themselves were also fantastic. Like, this is a finish that I really love, especially from Mooncat, so I was happy to see more. But this ended up being a collection I just didn't really reach for, which is so weird because, again, like, I love this type of finish. It's especially fun for summer. Overall, it's like, you know, a really great collection, but not my favorite one that they've done. So I guess it just makes sense to put it in the Vibes Are Immaculate because, again, like the whole theme, you know, the nostalgia, all of that was so fun and perfect. I don't really have any valid like complaints or criticisms for the release, but there's just, you know, something that keeps it from being flawless to me. So like I said, that collection launched in June, and then we didn't get another new collection until September. That summer was definitely a slow one, at least as far as Mooncat releases go. There was definitely a lot going on that I haven't talked about yet, but if you were online, especially on Reddit over the summer, you have seen the bottle gate issue going on, where a lot of people were dealing with these broken bottles from Mooncat at like an alarming rate. To be completely honest, I just don't have the bandwidth right now to go into all of the detail, rehashing like everything that went on, because this was an issue likely starting in May from their lunar sale, because it was like when people were getting their orders from the lunar sale that we started seeing a lot of posts on Reddit about their orders coming in broken, or even worse, the bottles breaking after getting delivered. So whether that's like, you know, on somebody's shelf or even worse, in somebody's hand, the bottles apparently were just breaking. If you haven't seen it, I will link Linry's video in the cards or in the description box, because she does a great job going through like the timeline of everything. It definitely took a while, but Mooncat did eventually respond to say that they are going to be switching manufacturers, which happened with their following collection in September. And they are also going to be like replacing the old inventory with the new bottles. I just don't know, but I'm assuming it means they're gonna wait until the old inventory sells first before being made with the new manufacturer, but I don't know. So I don't remember either if Mooncat plans on making like a statement to say like, hey, just so you all know, everything now is with like our new manufacturer. We have no more of our old inventory. I don't remember if they said they were gonna do that. I feel like that would be a good idea. So it definitely was a pretty big issue that was going on for a couple of months, and I know a lot of people were really put off by that, because I mean, obviously you're paying like luxury prices and expecting a luxury experience. It's kind of crazy to have a nail polish bottle just suddenly break on you, especially if you're just going to open or close it. But even with breaking in transit, that definitely is annoying, and I feel like it has happened the most with Mooncat. Like, it's rare when a nail polish will break in transit, but you know, it sometimes does happen. So just in case you weren't aware of, you know, the issue, or at least like where things are now, again, they have switched to a new manufacturer, so it shouldn't happen anymore. But I would say the best place to kind of keep up to date with everything is on Reddit, because that's where you know you're gonna see a lot of people posting like, hey, I got my order and it arrived broken. Which, don't get me wrong, like I think they should be doing, because that's just how we're able to communicate within the community about certain issues and if they're still happening or not. But anyway, back to the releases. So like I mentioned, we didn't get a new release until September with the Fallen collection. This was a massive 10-piece collection that again has this beautiful range of different finishes and formulas and colors. colors. I know I already mentioned it in my nail polish awards video, but I just love this overarching theme of like death and rebirth, and how this collection just goes like beyond just a fall collection and it goes into like winter and spring. I think it is just so freaking beautiful, and honestly one of my favorites. Super torn on where to put it, because I definitely think at the very minimum it is an A tier. Like the vibes are immaculate, but I don't know if I would put it in flawless no notes. Obviously mainly out of personal preference, where with the Fallen collection it's like I love the big picture idea about it, looking at like the colors individually. While there are like a lot of really strong ones, I just don't love all of them equally the way that I do with like Seasons of Persephone, for example. So at the very least, I feel like it belongs at the top of the A tier, because it is, in my opinion, like leagues ahead of the Powerpuff Girls collection. Honestly, seeing them side by side, I'm like, do I have the Powerpuff Girls like too high? Part of me almost wants to move them down to B, but I don't know. Maybe I'll revisit that like at the end. But I know, at least as far as Fallen, like it is super high up there, but compared to Seasons of Persephone, I feel like I still should put that one at the very top. I guess I'm trying to be picky since there's just not many releases. Then in October, we got the Pandora Unboxed collection, and this was another massive 10-piece collection with a couple of magnetics, some shimmers, a glow-in-the-dark polish that was permanent because the only previous glow-in-the-dark shades were from the Nightmare Before Christmas collab. While I definitely do love like some of the shades, especially the shimmers in here, even though they were kind of like on the simple side of a shimmer, where like there's no extra hollow or anything else that I usually like, I feel like these still looked so beautiful. But unfortunately I didn't care about the magnetics so much. I know a lot of people really like them, but I don't know, compared to other Mooncat magnetics, I feel like these three could just be put in the boring yawning category for me personally. But as a collection, I would not put them that low. So I feel like I want to put these in these are nice. That almost feels too low, especially, yeah, because then that would mean the Powerpuff Girls collection goes in front of that, and that just does not sound like it makes sense to me. So I am gonna put them in the A tier, in front of Powerpuff Girls, but definitely behind Fallen. Then in November, Mooncat does their second lunar sale of the year. The past couple of sales, they always had like a new release, whether it was like a new polish or a new collection. The two previous ones were the polishes, right? Like we had Mercury and Retrograde earlier in the year, and then the year before was Your Heart's a Black Hole. So I was kind of expecting like another single polish release, but we didn't get that, unfortunately. So the next release that we had was in December with the Star Wars collab. This was definitely a cool one. I mean, like I mentioned in my video, I have not seen Star Wars, so I am like not familiar with the franchise. I don't really have any, you know, loyalty to it. And because of that, I feel like unfortunately I wasn't as excited for it. But I feel like, you know, from my very limited like outsider knowledge of Star Wars, this was a really cool collab to see. I guess specifically having this like dark side focus, because again, it's just very Mooncat. But I know a lot of people, like especially Star Wars fans, didn't really feel that way. Like they thought that, you know, the colors were a little bit boring or repetitive. But because I'm not, you know, such a huge fan, I don't care for it too much. I don't think I would put these in the boring or yawning category, because I think, you know, the polishes themselves are still like really cool. They're beautiful shades. The magnetics, especially in this collection, felt like super crisp. So that was really nice. So I think the best place to put them is in the C tier for Smile and Nod, because, you know, it's like a cool collection, just maybe admittedly not for me. But as far as the collab goes, I feel like it was definitely one of like Mooncat's stronger collaborations. Honestly, the packaging alone I thought was really good, to the point that I would consider moving them up to the B tier, but I'm trying to focus on like the polishes, like, you know, just the theme of the collection, not so much the packaging because that's just extra. So I feel like I should keep them here in the C tier. So here is my completed tier list for Mooncat's releases from 2024. In the S tier, we have the Seasons of Persephone collection, which I definitely still stand on that. I think I want to say it's my favorite Mooncat collection that they've ever released. Like, there are definitely older collections that I really love a lot, but there's something about this one that just is above and beyond for me. In the A tier, I have 3 releases. We have the Fallen collection, the Pandora Unboxed collection, and the Powerpuff Girls collab. In B tier, I only have 1 collection, which is the Songs of Sirens. And honestly, now that I'm looking at it, I feel like I do want to move the Powerpuff Girls collab down to B, which I don't know why I'm like sad about that, right? Because obviously B is still really good. I do think the polishes are really pretty, you know, everything was like so fun about the release, but you know, in comparison to like their other collections, I feel like that one just doesn't stand out as much as the top 3 collections, in my opinion. So my new B tier has the Powerpuff Girls collab and then Songs of Sirens. And lastly, in my C tier, we have the Star Wars collab and Mercury in Retrograde, which I kind of feel bad about because it's like just the one polish and it's like on its own at the very end, but I don't know, it just didn't really stand out to me either. And obviously I don't have anything in the D tier, but I would love to know if there is a release from the past year that you would put there. So that wraps up my brand recap and collection tier list for Mooncat. As always, I would love to know what you think of my rankings, if you agree with them or disagree. I especially would love to know your top and or least favorite collection from the year, which I feel like shouldn't be too hard because again, there were just not that many to begin with, which I also would love to know just your thoughts on that, because as the year was going on and I was seeing it was kind of like every other month that we were getting a collection, I wasn't too upset by that. I was like, wait, actually, I kind of like this schedule because it just gives us a lot more time to like enjoy the collection as opposed to only enjoying it for like a few weeks or just a month before the next collection comes out. But I do remember at some point thinking, like, once I started keeping track of the collections for this video specifically, I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be such a short video. So yeah, I'm really curious to see what Mooncat's release schedule is going to look like this year, because again, I definitely would like to see a more like slowed down pace, and I personally feel like every other month is pretty good, but I do wonder how people feel about like having less frequent releases, but the releases are bigger, because obviously those are more expensive. Not that you ever like need to buy like full collections, but I don't know, there's always just something so tempting, especially with Mooncat, about their full piece collections. I think they do such a great job at taking a concept and just fleshing it out through their polishes. So it's just super satisfying seeing like the full lineup. But I do appreciate that having these like different finishes or like, you know, just the range of products within the collection. It's kind of like you can pick and choose your favorites, you know? I would love to know what you thought of last year's releases, what you're looking forward to this year. That's pretty much it for this video. So I do hope that you enjoyed. Leave me any and all thoughts that you have down below so we can chat about it. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!